Welcome back to my channel. Obviously we have a new addition to the YouTube world. I thought I would finally come on and introduce our daughter and also go through my birth story, labour story. Excuse if we have to cut the clip at any point because Madam wakes up, and then we'll resume at some point. Hopefully I can get through it quick enough. But yeah, I wanted to finally come on here. Excuse the hair, it was makeup or hair and I chose makeup. And she is comfy. I feel like I have to put this disclaimer out. She is comfy in the right position. That's how she likes to sleep, with her head kind of tilted a little bit. But she is perfectly happy in her little bouncer swing thing that we recently got, and she's been loving it. So yeah, finally here to talk about my labour story, which maybe a trigger warning. I just want to put out there, it didn't go to plan how I wanted it to. And if you're looking for a massively positive labour story, don't watch this. It was a good labour, everything was fine, we were all healthy and fine. But if you're sort of looking for the most positive, you know, one of those real uplifting ones, it didn't go the way I wanted it to. So that's just a warning if you're looking for that, if you're currently pregnant. So as I probably mentioned in my other vlogs, the plan was a home birth. It was going to be in our dining room, which is kind of the next room, and there was no reason for that to have changed. But unfortunately, if I sort of rewind the days before labour began, she was born on the 24th of September, and on the Friday before, so that was a Thursday, so 6 days before, I had a stretch and sweep, which was a 39+6 appointment, because 40 weeks would have been Saturday. So they just kind of said to me, we'll just do it the day before, it's fine, because it's only a day and obviously they don't do the clinics on a Saturday. So I had the sweep on the Friday, and following the sweep I had cramping, a bit of blood, and just felt a bit groggy. Nothing too bad, nothing that stopped me in my tracks, but it just made me feel a bit like, oh, that's not what I've had at all during pregnancy. You know, my pregnancy was so smooth sailing, not a single problem apart from heartburn. So it was a bit weird to have sort of things start to actually happen that made me feel like, oh, well, I am actually having a baby soon. I know that sounds strange, but when you're pregnant and when you have a baby are kind of two different life experiences. So I had that on the Friday. Over the weekend I don't think we did anything in particular, and I literally can't remember because it was just a whirlwind time of year and what was going on. So yeah, Friday was also Dan's birthday, so I remember in the evening we had a really nice takeaway and like chilled night, and then Saturday and Sunday I think we just chilled out and just took it easy. We might have gone to a shop or something like that, but we took it easy. Monday came around and I was experiencing incredible, what were contractions I think in the end, but they were so intermittent and it was driving me nuts because I'd get loads of them, then none of them. I would have breaks but they wouldn't be very long. And the trouble with this time, it was clearly like latent phase labour, which if you don't know is kind of the beginning of labour, and it can be days, it can be weeks, it can be a couple of minutes. It's different for everyone. And I always knew about this, but I didn't think it would be as long as mine was in the end. And so Monday I just felt awful. I got no sleep whatsoever. I was extremely uncomfortable. I put a clip in here of me being upset and just tired. I was exhausted. On the Tuesday I had the same again, and I'd even have like the 3 and 10 contractions, and then they would go. And we kept calling labour ward and kept saying like, I really, you know, something isn't right here. I keep getting these contractions and then they go and they come and I'm really exhausted. What's going on? And they almost wouldn't take it seriously. They were just sort of like, yep, carry on. I'm like, how am I meant to carry on and how long will this last? I know they can't give you those answers, but I just wanted a bit more advice. So on the Wednesday, I forget the days, either Tuesday or Wednesday because it ended up just blurring into one. Basically a midwife came out and to finally check me over and see what was going on and tell me if all this contraction time that I'd had, all this exhaustion was worth anything, whether we were getting anywhere. Like, was it labour beginning and was it, you know, centimetres were happening. It got to, I wish I could remember the days exactly. I believe it might have been Wednesday morning, to be honest. And the midwife came and she said that I was 3 centimetres. So I was like, thank God all this 48 hours of feeling exhausted was worth it, because I couldn't take any more at that point. So I thought if it wasn't, I hadn't even gone any like centimetres, I would have been really annoyed. So I was fine. So midwife came and went, but she did do another sweep at that point just to see if we could kickstart things a little bit more. In hindsight, I really regret having both sweeps. That's almost a different story, but I really do think that they kick-started labour way too soon, and my body wasn't ready, which then led me to being exhausted. So the midwife came and went, she did the stretch and sweep, she said I was 3 centimetres, so it was just a case of waiting for things to happen. Waited it out that day, and Dan was working from home that week, so that was handy. And by the evening things got a lot stronger and I was in a lot of pain. I was just rolling around the house in incredible amounts of pain. I wasn't able to sleep whatsoever. I remember on the NCT course they said sleep between contractions, and I couldn't. It wasn't that they were like the kind of contractions that was so painful I had to breathe through them as such. It was just that they were so, they were just knocking me for 6 kind of thing. And I was taking paracetamol, that wasn't touching it. So by the Wednesday evening, let's say 8-9 p.m, we then decided to call labour ward and say, look, we've been tracking the contractions, they're getting quite intense, we could do with someone coming out again to having a look. And because we had a home birth, we had to tell them in advance. The midwife came, say 10 o'clock, and she turned up and basically said, yep, you're now 5 centimetres, good, I'm here for the night. I was like, oh right, so I'm going to be giving birth at some point in the next 24 hours. Okay, it kind of, I thought she'd just come and check me over and that was it. And also I didn't think the home birth midwife would stay for hours, and I thought to myself, well, that just means she's going to be sitting around for 4 or 5 hours and drinking tea. Like, what else is she going to be doing? Like, there's nothing going to happen. But then it all started to just quickly happen. So after she examined me again, 5 centimetres, I came downstairs in this exact room, exactly where Romilly's sitting at the moment, and my contractions, I was just like rolling around on the floor with the contractions, breathing through them as I could. And then this is where things probably didn't go exactly to plan. So Dan was in the other room setting up the birthing pool because you just don't know how long that could take. And I was sitting in here with the midwife. That ended up being about 11 o'clock I went onto the gas and air, so within an hour of her turning up. Probably too soon. So I started the gas and air because it was offered, and I didn't know what it would do to me because you just don't know what any painkillers can do for you, can you? Or how they would react with you. I thought gas and air would just take the edge off like a really strong painkiller, but it didn't, and I basically was high as a kite from there on in. So did that, then went into the pool, can't remember what time, but I went into the pool, and that was lovely. The pool was so warm, it was like a jacuzzi temperature, even though it was just felt really good. I was able to really stretch out, and it was really good in that aspect, and I was breathing through all these contractions. I was trying my best, and I think it got to around 2 a.m. and I had to get out of the pool to be examined, and got examined. I think I was 7 centimetres at this point, but then things started to unravel the way I didn't expect them to for a home birth. So because I was on the gas and air from 11 o'clock at night, I was on it every single contraction. I wish I hadn't have done that. That wasn't my plan at all, but I couldn't end up doing it without them because I was so high. So I managed to get through 2 gas canisters of gas and air, which no one expected me to. So we ran out around 5 a.m. I think in the end. But we knew we were going to run out. So the second midwife was called because at home birth you have 2 midwives. And she ended up taking an hour and a half from getting out of bed to the hospital for more gas and air to hours, which was longer than we expected because the hospital was only a 15-minute journey away from us. That meant that there was a time where I had no gas and air, no pain relief, and the contractions were really strong. I personally can't remember this bit, and on the notes that were given or said to me the other day, they said this was only 10 minutes. But Dan's adamant that this was a good hour and a half, and we're not entirely convinced that it was just 10 minutes because that would have only been a couple of contractions, and this felt a really long time frame between the 2 running out and then what happened next. And I remember blacking out at this point. Like, I was obviously conscious, but I was not with it. So I was still in the pool, and then I had to get out to get examined when the second midwife came because they were going to break my waters if things hadn't progressed. Got out the pool and I got examined, and I was in a lot of distress by this point because I was basically in so much pain. And and I got examined. My waters must have broken. They weren't sure, but they thought they had in the pool, and it's probably because I was in so much pain. And then that caused them cause for concern because I'd not progressed anymore. I was still 7 centimetres, and this meant for 3 or 4 hours I was still 7 centimetres. So that meant I had to then get an ambulance to hospital, which was not my plan at all. I knew that this could happen, I knew things could go wrong. Sorry, I just had to move her head because she was all like on one side. Yeah, so we had to call an ambulance, and Dan was getting distressed and I was in distress. I was shouting for my mum and I wasn't with it at all. I was really, really not in a good place. And I remember being on the sofa next to me here and thinking, like, I basically just shouted down the phone to my mum at like 5 AM. I don't know where I am, I don't know what's going on, like I need help. I don't know why I needed that. I said that because I did kind of know what was going on, but in my head I had no idea I was giving birth. I was just in a world of pain. We basically got to the decision an ambulance was needed. I needed to get to hospital to get the baby out because it was taking too long. So all I remember from this point, or what was told to me, is that about 5:30, 5 o'clock, an ambulance was called. I remember sitting on the sofa and then looking to my right. There was gas and air by this point. I finally had some because the second midwife turned up. I looked to my right and there was just like a guy's legs in big boots and, you know, like an ambulance uniform essentially. That's all I saw to my right side. They had to get me in the ambulance, which was outside. They put me on a chair, and I remember shouting to Dan, like, my phone's on the bedside table. Like, why was I saying these things when I'm in a world of pain giving birth? But there we go. He was running around the house getting everything together. We had the hospital bags ready, but still, you can never prepare yourself for an emergency trip to hospital. And I remember when being wheeled out of the house, we've got like a step and then another step for the patio kind of thing. And I remember saying, mind the step, as if like they didn't know that. As high as a kite, literally, in the ambulance. I'd said a few things. There must have been different gas or air in this one. Said a few things like, I'm gonna kick Boris Johnson so hard for this, because that was the reason for having a home birth. And I also said I don't want to be on TV because I thought that because I was in an ambulance I was going to be on the TV show Ambulance. So I was a little bit not with it in so many different ways. So in the ambulance at 7 centimetres, yeah, we were in the ambulance, weren't we? Are you waking up? No. 7 centimetres from my house to the hospital, which takes a 15-minute journey, even with blue flashing lights. I progressed 3 centimetres. So the ambulance obviously just knocked things about a little bit. So I got to hospital about 6 AM, was taken straight into a delivery suite, and by 7:07 she popped out. It just took that final bit to get the baby out. Apparently I was known on the ward for the woman who turned up an hour later and gave birth, so that's always nice. And there were a few things that kind of I didn't enjoy. I really didn't enjoy pushing, obviously, but I found it incredibly painful. I was on the gas and air again, and I just couldn't believe that I did the whole thing on gas and air. I didn't take up the option for any other painkillers. It was almost too late once I got to hospital anyway, because that's the only place I could have had further painkillers, and by then it was like, well, the baby's coming, so you're already at the worst part of it. I remember basically doing labour half on the bed and half on Dan's lap, with my legs like askew. Had my leg on a lady's shoulder and I kept getting cramp and be like, there's cramp in my leg, there's cramp in my leg. And she'd have to rub it out of my leg before I could push again. I wouldn't do that labour again if you paid me. She is 100% worth it, but I hated it. And I know some people kind of say the pain's worth it and they have a good labour, but even I did a bit of hypnobirthing, and that did bugger all once you're high as a kite. You can't remember what you're doing or who you are or anything. There was some trauma when I gave birth, which is the word they use, which meant I had a second-degree tear. I know it can be worse, but still any kind of tear isn't fun, so I had stitches, and that was horrible too. It was just not a pleasant experience, and I just didn't want to end up in hospital. That was my last thing I wanted. Luckily Dan was there for the whole birth from start to finish, but then when I tried to breastfeed her, she didn't really latch on to begin with, probably because I was just so out of it. When they delivered her, I basically remember the baby falling out and just going, oh, like, thank God for that, it's over. baby given to me on my tummy or chest or something, and I just remember looking at her going, like, I just wasn't with it. I didn't have that, oh my god, there's a baby, like that's our baby. Obviously I love her to bits, but it's taken me a bit of time to acknowledge that, like, the labour was so traumatic for me, and I was so exhausted. It ended up being 56 hours. I think I got maybe about an hour's sleep total in that time frame. I was just exhausted, and I was just glad it was over, which feels horrible to say, and it gives me a lot of guilt for all that, but when you're that exhausted, all you want is the end result to be over. So she was there and on me, and I don't think I was really prepared for the, like, if I was more with it and conscious in some ways, I think I would have been more like, oh, let's get the breastfeeding going and get that right. But I was just like staring at her like, what the hell has just happened there? Not with it at all. And the gas was still kind of in my system, and even my teeth hurt, my lungs hurt, my lips were dry as a bone, my hair had gone a different colour, in like there's a picture where she's just on me. I look awful. I'd never share that photo because some people have these beautiful photos where they're all made up and their hair looks amazing. I looked disgusting because I was just so drained. There was not an inch of colour in me, and I found it really hard. So she didn't breastfeed immediately. I then had to have a shower, which felt really abrupt and quick. We had to dress her, and we didn't have a clue what we were doing. They didn't even put a hat on her, which really confused me. And there were just so many parts of it that I feel like didn't go the way I expected them to. So because she didn't latch on for the breastfeeding, that's what we wanted to do. I then got told to go to the ward for help for breastfeeding, which I didn't get, by the way. They just showed me once and then expected it to just keep happening. Yeah, so in the end I got home 8 PM that night. Came home, my parents had cleaned the house up and just got rid of any evidence of the home birth, basically, because I felt really sort of on edge for a day or two after that, just because my home had been the place where a lot of that pain and trauma had happened, and I didn't know how to handle that. It felt like my home had been sort of tampered with, even though it's all to do with me and that was my choice. It felt wrong in the end. And even seeing the pool in the kitchen when we got home, I just had to kind of pretend it wasn't there and just said, I need someone to remove that before I can go in there. But she's here. She is absolutely fine. It's like it never, like in her world, nothing went wrong. She is happy as Larry. She's even giving a wave. Let me see if I can focus on her. Like, she's happy as Larry. The world is good for her. Let me just focus back on me. So yeah, that is my labour story. Nothing went to plan. I was exhausted, and recovery's been okay. It was more mental for me. I needed some mental health support in the end, and it took me about 2 weeks to just finally feel like I had a baby that wasn't just this thing in our lives that we were keeping alive. I love her to bits, and we have such a better connection and bond now, but it has taken a lot of time, and I don't think people really acknowledge that enough. I've spoke to loads of people who've said that they feel the same as me, but yet all we see is the glamorous side, and people that say, like, I had a rush of love and all this. It's like, I didn't have that rush of love. I didn't have that immediate, like, overwhelm and crying and anything. I just felt like it was like an out-of-body experience. That's the only way I can describe it, because it didn't feel like I experienced it. So it is hard, and it's taken a lot of time, but now she's ours and here, and we're getting into a routine, and last night we had 6 hours sleep, which was incredible. It's getting there, and I just wanted to kind of share my story to normalise that not everyone has these beautiful, calm, you know, relaxing home births, because yes, people do, and I'm not, you know, well done and amazing if you had that, but I didn't have that, and sometimes you have to admit when things do go wrong. So that was my labour story, but luckily, as I say, she was absolutely fine and nothing wrong with her whatsoever. She just loves eating, pooing, napping, chilling. She's very, very easy compared, and we do get more sleep than we ever expected, so we're very thankful for that. I might have said her name earlier in the video, but her name is Romilly Scott. She does have a middle name, but we're kind of just not sharing it yet because we want to give her a little bit of privacy. I feel like it's easy to share, you know, your child's whole life before they've even been here. So she does have a middle name, but only sort of close friends and family know what that is. And yeah, she's now 5 weeks old today, which has flown by. But yeah, being slow at the same time. Every day kind of rolls into one, and especially with the horrible weather and everything, I'm just staying indoors while it's miserable. So yeah, Romilly's she's waving goodbye again. She's just, yeah, she's just funny. So I'm going to add in clips across when I've been talking, because she's been a bundle of joy. She's been great, and we're getting there as a family. It's been just been mental. So any other video requests you have, whether that's things I used in my hospital bag, if that's things like newborn essentials, anything at all, then let me know below. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too rambly, and thank you for all the support I've had online. It's been incredible. Once you're a mum, you realise how valuable it is. Before, I kind of just thought, wow, there's a lot of mums on Instagram, but there's a reason for that. It's because it's just so invaluable. I reckon she's going to wake up in a bit. I've had 20 minutes to do this video. That's incredible. And I'll speak to you guys soon.